let's wrap up HM&S Dino Dig 2022. Welcome to the HM&S Beyond Bones podcast. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, and what an amazing experience this has been. Simply stunning. I am tasked with putting this all together as a video when I get back to Houston. I have, like I mentioned, probably well over 100 gigs worth of video. Anybody on the dig has seen me crawling around and walking around and flying the drone and using my camera and getting down in the dirt and filming the bones being brushed away and discovered. I cannot wait to pour through all that. I've also been filming all sorts of other things. You know, we went to Deadwood. We went to the Mount Rushmore. We went to Crazy Horse. I've been filming all of it, and I'm going to put together an awesome video. I think before we move on to sound bites here, I think what I'm going to do is make a video all about the Dino Dig, and then do things like the Devil's Tower and Deadwood and the Mammoths site and all that stuff as kind of separate videos. But either way, I cannot wait to dig into all this footage. So let's start with the final dig day of Dino Dig 2022. I started the day kind of recapping with Peter Larson, the head honcho at the Black Hills Institute, with the kinds of bones that we've been discovering in the different quarries, the different kind of dig sites at the Waugh Quarry over this time period with HM&S. But while we were talking about the bones we're finding on this trip, Peter decided to go down to the quarry and have a look at one for himself, and we made some interesting discoveries. Now, I'm going to bring you along with us here. This recording is a few minutes long here. I want you to hear the grass we're walking through. I want you to hear the environment around us, although it's mostly pretty quiet up there in the mountains. But you can hear some interesting things. I hope this next bit of audio helps put you there. So, let's do it. What pit is this behind us?
That's Quarry E. So it's kind of on the other side of the hill. Mm-hmm. And so we're about, probably 50 yards from Quarry B and C. And there's dinosaur bones all the way from B and C to E.
What are we finding down there?
So we've collected there last year with the Houston Museum, mm-hmm. and we've got at least a Barosaurus and what appears to be maybe a Camarasaurus down there. So we like that sort of odds.
Yeah. Looks like a humerus down there, some vertebrae, and I mean the one that I think Dorian's working on, mm-hmm. maybe? Dorian, sorry, my goodness, that's going to be a theme of this trip. Dorian. It could be like a hip joint too, maybe?
Well, I'm going to go take a look because I don't know.
Yeah. Come on, Joe.
My mapping grid down.
I didn't mean to distract you. I was going to follow you while you were working.
Alex thinks it's a radius. That's what Alex was saying. He thinks it's a radius.
Yeah.
I'm not the best at identifying things, but...
Well, we're going to figure it out. Listen to the footsteps through the tall grass. This is some ASMR right here.
No, it's not a radius.
It was not.
Super thin. Huh. I think you got a vertebra.
Okay.
I think. So it should go that way. Remember I told you not to dig there?
Don't dig that way?
Well, just a little bit, just to see if we've...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so let me see your knife for a sec. Oops, we're gonna do a little exploratory surgery here. If I don't find something down there, then I'm wrong. So Alex and I can both be wrong together.
That's enough from the peanut gallery.
Okay, it's not a vertebra. So.
Is it a coracoid?
Yeah, it's a coracoid and scapula.
That's the coracoid is my guess.
That's a good guess. Another guess is a piece of a pelvic bone, piece of an ilium.
And that was Johnny's.
Goes that way?
So, but it doesn't go that way.
Oh, really?
Not that I can see here.
Not so far. Yeah.
Not so far. No. I might be wrong here. Wait a minute.
I'll probe down straight with that.
No.
Okay.
I want to actually see it. It's getting pretty thick. But Yeah, let me see your probe. I take it back. Nope. So, I don't know. You know what it
Clear
is?
that.
It's a dinosaur bone. I figured it out.
He's a man.
Correct again.
Clean this out over here.
No.
Can I touch it a little bit? My fingers?
No. Yes.
Well,
No, go ahead. You can touch it. So, here, you want to get some glue in here. And probably here. It's sturdy now, but eventually. Yeah, that's a sturdy bone.
that is a very sturdy.
That's Mr. and Mrs. Sturdy Bone right there.
That's what I was thinking. It's like a hip or something.
A natural joint here, maybe?
Well, not natural. It's a break.
This is a break.
Yeah.
Well,
So you'll see.
there-
I mean, this is freezes and has been frozen and thawed many times. And so you're gonna have some breaks in there. Cool. Nice bone.
The super glue they're talking about, they periodically add super glue to the surface of the bone to help stabilize it, help preserve it, help seal it from the elements a bit more, because now that it's out in the open air, it is even more subject to corrosion. So as they are kind of removing the bone or removing the dirt from the bone, as more bones being preserved, every once in a while they'll dab little drops of super glue all around to help save the bone as much as possible from here on out. Let's look at that humerus a little more. I posted this on Facebook. You should follow us on Facebook, Houston Museum of Natural Science on Facebook, as well as Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all that good stuff. But let's look at the humerus of the camarasaur. We did later confirm, I might have an audio bite of that here somewhere, but we did later confirm that it was in fact the humerus of a camarasaur. So let's join Peter as he's kind of going over the final stages before removal, or I should say extraction from the ground.
Beautiful. So now you want to join the party. That's the end of the bone there. That's the end of the humerus. That's pretty massive.
Nice.
So start up here and bring that edge down until it meets the rest of it. So start up above and then
Work this way. Here.
yeah, yep. But no, don't come from the top, not from the bottom. Beautiful. We'll be able to get it out, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Left humerus.
So a few minutes later, I was running around filming things, recording things with my tape, quote unquote, recorder, and I just started kind of putting the puzzle pieces of bones together in my mind, specifically the teeth we were finding and then the bones we were finding. The teeth were from Allosaurus, the bones were from Barosaurus, Camarasaurus. And I just started putting puzzle pieces. So I wanted to ask Joey from BHI what the significance of finding teeth of a carnivore next to the bones of a herbivore. What could that possibly mean? So can you repeat what you were just saying about finding the bones and teeth?
Oh, well, these bones here were definitely scavenged upon at one point by specifically Allosaurus, but also at one point we did find a Torvosaurus tooth here at one point. So definitely a Torvosaurus also snacked on these dinosaurs here, because we don't find very many bones from the Allosaurs and the Torvosaurus and the other carnivores in this area. You only find their teeth, meaning they're losing teeth while they're crunching down on these big, heavy sauropods and Stegosaurus and other big dead animals that were here. So this is definitely a site that was definitely scavenged on over the years, and then floods happened and the bones got moved around, and it's a really incredible site, and definitely a lot of very obvious evidence of scavenging here from all the big Jurassic carnivores.
It's just really fun to put the puzzle pieces together and recreate the scene, after millions of years. One of the most difficult things to convey are these huge time periods. We're talking about hundreds of millions of years at least, eons, millennia, and it's hard to conceptualize a time that long ago. But to me, what helps kind of bring it right now to the present, what helps me visualize it right here in the present are those puzzle pieces you put together. The teeth from the carnivores along with the bones of the animals they were eating, and the bones of the animals that these carnivores were eating also have the teeth marks in them. Just like you would find, lions' teeth marks in a gazelle in Africa or something like that. And it helps you kind of visualize what went on. Sorry, there's motorcycles in the background. Sturgis is happening nearby, so tons of motorcycles revving. Anyways, what helps you kind of bridge the gap of millennia is putting these puzzle pieces together. You see these teeth by these giant bones, and it really helps you visualize. When you're sitting out there in Wyoming, you're sitting on the hillside, it helps you visualize the river that probably used to be here and the animals that were snacking on the carcasses, or the dying animals, the dying big sauropods that were there at the time. It helps bridge the gap. It's almost like mental time travel. Speaking of puzzle pieces, dinosaur theory changes all the time, and the most famous dinosaur, arguably, is Tyrannosaurus rex. Recent studies have come out changing the theory a little bit about the T-Rex speed. Could it run 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour? New data and new research is suggesting it might have been a lot slower, on the order of 9 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. Anyways, it's a fascinating concept to talk about. It's a fascinating theory to discuss. And even when these new theories come out, there are still people on the fence. There are still people who see evidence another way. Either way, it's a very fun debate. It's a fun subject to talk about. So enjoy the next few minutes of paleontologists and me discussing the possibility of T-Rex's speed. And not only speed, what it would mean to the entire existence of T-Rex if it were, in fact, very slow as opposed to reasonably fast. So I picked Alex and Joey's brain from the Black Hills Institute. What are your thoughts on the ramifications of T-Rex possibly being way slower than we thought?
So, there are a lot of biomechanical studies out there that have been indicating that T-Rex probably would have been limited in its top speed, probably around 20 or 25 miles per hour.
I've heard lower than that too, like 12.
I've heard lower than that
Yeah.
too, but it seems like that changes
Exactly.
every year.
Yeah.
Right.
So the thing to keep in mind is that Tyrannosaurids, the family that includes T-Rex, this is a family that has specializations for being cursorial. That means moving fast, running fast. So specifically, their middle big toe, right in the center there, as it goes up into the ankle bone, it pinches on the inside, and that is indicative of absorbing stress while an animal is moving quickly. Think of how a horse is basically walking on one toe. That helps it push off real easy. Or an ostrich, which has reduced the number of toes it has to 2. Unlike other birds, which have 3. And so it has those adaptations. Now you're talking about a potentially 8-ton animal, using the most recent mass estimates, that is walking on 2 legs. So it's operating under a lot of constraints. So even with those adaptations, it's limited in what it can do. So you ask Pete still thinks they could go as fast as Bakker thinks they could go, which is 40, 45. I myself am skeptical of that, but those same adaptations that a smaller Tyrannosaurid would have for running at those speeds, a T-Rex size animal could use for moving at a decent click, maybe 20 miles per hour, maybe 18, even if it was just 12. Those adaptations would have helped it save energy, so it could have worn down prey items. It could have gone for ones that are sick. All those adaptations that worked for a smaller animal, sized up, still had a benefit. So, and there's evidence we have of adult T-Rex hunting live prey items and letting them escape. So that failure of predation is actually good evidence that T-Rex of all sizes were still hunting well into their senescence, into their most massive adult stage.
On top of that, the animals that the T-Rex is contemporary with, a lot of the animals are about the same size. Edmontosaurus is about the same size as a T-Rex lengthwise. So those animals also probably weren't super fast themselves either. On top of that, I mean, what do you think? Do you think? I don't think Edmontosaurus is moving 50 miles an hour or anything like that.
No, those animals don't have those same adaptations for being cursorial.
And then Triceratops is definitely not. That's a wallowing.
Yeah, like Bearsaur too, just lumbering.
Bearsaur's a whole different era.
But still, like the big, large
sauropods,
quadrupedal or whatever animals, just like an elephant can move pretty quick, but it's fairly smaller than these giant beasts.
Especially in an elephant, elephants' legs are beneath their body more, so they can kind of get more. While Triceratops is more sprawled.
It's got low legs and the front limbs.
So that's not really a design that's made for moving quickly. I'd say more like it move almost more like a hippo than like an elephant, even though it's more close to elephant in size. Hippos can get really fast, but they're fast in like a short burst.
Right.
And so I think if anything, the things that T-Rex is eating are not very quick either. So it doesn't really need to have a super high speed, but it probably does move faster than some of the science is saying currently.
So one of the most recent, the models we've seen, part of the speed controversy comes from the resonant frequency of the tail. They're saying the tail, the mass and of the tail and everything, the length, it probably wouldn't have been able to bob fast enough to allow more than a certain amount of speed. But that depends on the actual mass of the tail and the size of the animal and all sorts of different things. Everything, this is my way layman opinion, everything quick has as we know it, kind of has a tail or at least 2 legs with the adaptations you're talking about. So I would tend to agree that while T-Rex and other animals in that group of that size, maybe not running 50 miles an hour, but I think they probably moved quicker than 10 or 12 in a short burst, like a lunge or something.
I think we would all agree that they're definitely faster than 10 or 12. I think that's a very, very conservative estimate. That's what you're talking about is the new paper from our friends in Leiden, who we worked with on the Trix project, the beautiful T-Rex they have in the Netherlands. But there's a lot of assumptions they're making. Again, like you say, the shape of the tail, the mass, and we have just now, in the past 20 years, begun to understand the significance of the caudofemoralis muscle, which is the big muscle that runs from the femur all the way into the base of the tail. And so there was a paper, I think in 2009, that indicated that we're really underestimating the mass of this muscle. And this is a huge driver in any dinosaur's locomotion, because they're all rear-wheel drive animals. With that caudofemoralis, but especially in a bipedal dinosaur like T-Rex. Science by nature is provisional. It's a self-correcting discipline. And as we get new ideas, as new people come into the field and new data emerges, there can be whole paradigm shifts, which, we got from the 60s into the 80s with the dinosaur renaissance, which Bob Bacher helped, kind of invent. And then we've gone into this era with computer modeling and biomechanics, and that's given us more conservative estimates. That is not to say that science does not get closer to the truth over time, but this constant fluctuation is a feature and not a bug of the scientific method.
Exactly.
I cannot tell you what a thrill and what a privilege it was to spend at least 6 days digging up dinosaur fossils with the experts who write the book. So when you have a dinosaur question or a question about any sort of prehistoric occurrence, the scientists are right there to answer it. You don't have to Google anything. You can just ask the experts. I can't, there's no words. I'm supposed to be able to put words to things in a podcast, but there are some experiences in life that leave you speechless, and this is one of those experiences. I'm eternally grateful to the Black Hills Institute and my employer, the Houston Museum of Natural Science, for sending me out on this adventure. And I hope through the past 6 or 7 podcasts that you can go through here, you can hear all sorts of those types of conversations from the pit about the dinosaurs, about the fossils, from the experts themselves, and the experiences from those of us digging the dinosaurs, digging the bones, digging the history. It has been my extreme pleasure to bring all this to you, but the trip is not over yet. We still, as you can hear beneath me, the music, the audio bed, we got back on the bus and we started to make our way to the last touristy things of the region. So our first stop on our final day of this adventure was to Mount Rushmore. And of course, I had to get the Brits' opinion of our national treasure. All right, you limey Brit. Right. What do you think of Mount Rushmore?
It's quite nice. That's all I can say about it.
That's all you can say.
I got a souvenir. You limey Brit. I got a souvenir.
So you better make good comments, otherwise we're gonna jump you right now.
You're gonna deport me.
You be honest.
You in here, be grateful.
Did you? What about the size? Was it bigger or smaller than you thought it would be? Granted, it was far away.
Smaller, I'd say, but I'm not saying that to any discredit of the Americans. But
You are. There's a lot of Americans that think it's just gigantic.
yeah. I wonder how big Crazy Horse is going to be when we check. Are we checking Crazy Horse out?
Apparently, a lot bigger.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Way bigger.
Good.
Yeah.
Apparently, you can stand on his arm for $1.50.
What his arm?
Stand, not suck his arm. Stand on his arm.
Stand on his.
Stand on his arm for $1.50. Yeah.
You want to stand on my armpit?
Yeah, I'll stand on your arm.
He wants to put his nose right in your
Are
armpit.
you going to get this as a tattoo?
David at the end asking if Tom the Brit is going to get Mount Rushmore with George Washington and all the rest as a tattoo. I would chip in $100. Tom, I'm going to go find him. I'm going to go to the arcade after recording this podcast. I'm going to go offer him $100 to go get a tattoo of George Washington on his arm right here in Rapid City. You know we can find a tattoo parlor. Oh, gosh, that's a legit idea. Legit. I'm going to wrap up this podcast pretty soon. Oh, my goodness, I'm excited. I'm excited to irreversibly mark a British person's body with a tattoo of George Washington. How apropos. But we did visit Crazy Horse next, and I got an opinion or two of that. Carter, Crazy Horse, what do you think?
I think Crazy Horse, it's a cool monument, just seeing that it's the biggest one. I think he's got a cool pose too, but it kind of looks like he's fused with the horse and he's not riding it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, you can see it from the seat here.
They haven't carved him out.
No, it's really cool. I didn't ask how long it's going to take for them to actually get it carved out, but I
30
suppose.
to 70 years.
30
How old are you now?
20, so
On the far side, you can come see this again when you're 90.
when I'm 90. And I'll come see your taxidermied body in some sort of museum.
I wanted Nick's input as well.
Ironically, it is just crazy how big and massive this thing is. Like, compared to Mount Rushmore, I was expecting Mount Rushmore to be a lot bigger than Crazy Horse, or like about the same size of the heads, but really, Crazy Horse is just so much bigger.
And of course, David's 2 cents.
David, I know you'll be dead before it finishes, but what do you think, Crazy Horse?
Let's see. If they do the short end, I'll be 92, and if they do the long end, I'll be 132. So probably I'm not going to see it done, which makes me actually very sad. I love this place. This is my second time here. The museum is first class. They've done a great job with it. And the carving is going to be amazing.
It's pretty cool right now.
Oh, yeah. And to have it be sort of the cultural center for the Native Americans in the Black Hills, oh, my God. It's a great, I recommend coming here. It's absolutely wonderful.
All of the background ambiance you hear is because I recorded these responses at lunch in the dining hall at the Crazy Horse Museum, which was absolutely wonderful. After lunch, I went outside and was able to witness a traditional Native American healing dance.
Without further ado, please welcome to the stage my niece, our beautiful dancer, Sophia.
It was a complete privilege to witness that. And if you haven't visited Crazy Horse, the Crazy Horse Memorial, the Crazy Horse Monument, you really, really, really should. It's incomplete. It's ongoing. Like they said, it could be 30 to 70 years before it's finished, which makes sense. It's going to be the largest monument in the world. It's going to be the biggest monument that human beings have ever carved out of a mountain, basically. So 30 to 70 years, considering the undertaking that they're making. Also consider this. Remember, this is not federally funded. This is all privately funded. There's no federal dollars from the U.S. government going towards this. So what they're able to do just by their own means and through donations is very remarkable. The next site, the last site we visited, was the Mammoths site in Hot Springs, South Dakota, which was
mind-blowing. I asked David Temple his opinion. Can you tell us about mammoths and the mammoth site here in South?
Sure. This is the largest collection of mammoths, I think, in North America. It's dug in situ, which everything is in place. We have a smaller one in Texas, the Waco Mammoth Site, which only has a few mammoths. This one, I think, has somewhere around 40, and they don't have them all dug out.
We happened upon a volunteer named Bruce who was digging down in the mammoth pit, and he was able to shed an immense amount of light on the mammoth site and the numbers of mammoths that could possibly be under here. It's a very fascinating conversation. I'm going to play it in its entirety. It's only a few minutes, but it's some very, very cool stuff. Now, it might be slightly hard to hear. He was about 10 feet below us, but I did my best to get the microphone in there. At worst, you're going to hear the ambiance of the mammoth pit itself. But anyway, enjoy this thoroughly interesting conversation.
Isn't that preserved?
Believe it or not, yeah. It's supposed to be soft. They're exceedingly delicate. By far the most difficult thing to try to detail because they're just so freaking thin and they just don't hold together.
Yeah.
So, but now what I'm trying to do is take, this was all the way up to here, and now I'm trying to take it down. I found these 3 bones. I think July 13th is when I found this.
You'll expose what's
so
over
we're
there.
trying to get down, because it appears there's a big bone layer down here.
Yeah.
So we're trying to expose it and see what we find. So at the moment, I'm doing what I like to call chunking. If you look very carefully, you can see the sediments laid down very linearly. And if there is a bone there, like when I found that bone, even though when the mammoths were trying to get out, it was obviously a very turbulent time. But in general, based on the sediment behind you, it was very quiet in the lake.
Yeah.
And so the sediment would literally go over the bone. So as you're coming down, you actually can see the curvature. So that's what I look for when I'm digging is, am I starting to see
the hump.
a hump that indicates there's a bone?
That sounds very much like Green River. So they go out at night and they'll do the oblique light and they can see the shapes of the fish and things underneath. You don't necessarily see it in flat light, but when you look at it in oblique light, it pops up.
Yep. I do have some fossils from Green River. I got a really nice Diplomystus intact.
Yes.
It's almost 20 inches long. I got from Green River.
Well, this is great. We're visiting from Texas, and we do have a small mammoth site in Waco, but I always tell people you got to go see the Waco site first, because if you see you see this site first, and then you go see that one, it's utterly underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they think they might have 15 to 20 there at Waco, but here, my personal belief is we've got a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Because we found 123 tusks, actually. I found the 123rd one last September. But you notice the tusks are not in the sockets. And because there's no DNA, there's no way that these are all matching.
Yeah.
So we probably already found 65, 70, 75.
This is my 6th or 7th time here, and every time when we come up this way, of course, we go see Mount Rushmore and do all that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm crazy and sick of Mount Rushmore, but I really like this place.
Oh, it's cool because it's always changing.
Yeah.
I mean, this looked totally different 3 weeks ago, I conclude. I mean, the sediment was literally all the way up to here, all the way over to here. I literally cleaned out this entire...
And this will be taken to be wet screened?
Not this particular. They did a study about 7 years ago to see where it was most cost effective to screen wash. And lady that just walked by, Ariel, she's working back up in the corner over there. That has lots of clams and snails. We found owl pellets. We found Cooper lights.
Wow.
They will screen wash that stuff. But over here, it's either big bones or it's...
So I noticed on your audio they're talking about environmental reconstruction. So you guys have to get pollen, I'm guessing, out of this. Did you get any pollen?
Yes, they do get pollen. We have found microfauna.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, flora.
And then Bruce demonstrated the difficulty distinguishing between bone and dirt, mammoth bone and dirt. Remember, mammoth bone is not fossilized, so it's not turned into rock, basically. So he did the little knock test between dirt and bone. Listen to how close it sounds.
Here's the bone. Yeah. That's very close. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's very hollow. Yeah. So we have a hard cortical outer layer, but the inside cancellous part, I mean, yeah, there's lots of gypsum crystals on this, so I don't dare try to take them off, because I'd pull the cortical part off too. Yeah. And it would just totally destroy the bone. So.
Well, thank you for your time.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. Appreciate the questions and talking with you guys.
I was telling David it must be nice, all things considered, to be able to excavate in air conditioning.
Yes. It does get hot and humid.
Yeah. Or is it air conditioned in here, or is it just fans?
Oh, no, there's definitely AC in here. There's humidity detectors, and they try to keep the humidity, I think, somewhere between 65 and 75%.
Yeah.
Because the bones are just so dry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it might help.
Yeah.
I would think it would help preserve.
Yeah, I've literally uncovered a bone, and the sediment literally acts as a plaster cast. And when you take the dirt away, you can literally start to see the cracks form right in front of you. So
very interesting.
Yeah, it's scary actually.
Yep.
Because you think, oh, I got this cool solid bone, you come back 15 minutes later and here's all these cracks.
Fissures.
Like, those weren't there.
What a fantastic time this has been. What a simply amazing experience and privilege it's been to go out with the Houston Museum of Natural Science and document all of this for you. I'm eternally grateful in my heart. And once again, as we wrap up this podcast here, this series of podcasts from the ground of Dino Dig 2022, I want to thank all the folks at the Black Hills Institute for having us. I want to thank the Houston Museum of Natural Science for sending me out there to do this. And I want to remind y'all that this is only the tip of the iceberg of content, especially video content. Make sure you are subscribed to the Houston Museum of Natural Science YouTube channel. In the coming weeks, you're going to see some amazing content right there. My whole goal, my modus operandi, is to, as much as I've been able to do on this podcast, kind of put you in the cut with us, now I'm going to do so visually. I've been filming everything in outstanding 4K. I've got amazing drone shots. I'm trying to put you in the place we're in with the drone shots, and then I'm going to try to put you on the bone, like nose to the bone. I want you to see the fissures and cracks and texture of the bone itself through the 4K filming and through the lenses I'm using and all sorts of things. I want to put you down there in the dirt with us, so close you can taste the dirt as much as David Temple and Chuck do. So stay tuned for that. Houston Museum of Natural Science on YouTube. Follow all the social media too, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. Houston Museum of Natural Science. I cannot thank you enough for listening to the Beyond Bones podcast. There will be more Beyond Bones podcast about different subjects. I will go out there with a microphone. We will interview all sorts of experts and people and get you on the ground of different places. So make sure you're subscribed to the HMNS Beyond Bones podcast in your favorite podcast app. And please, if you'd be so kind, tell your friends about it. If you enjoy the podcast, please share it with your friends. Tell your friends. Let's grow this thing organically. Let's put HMNS Beyond Bones podcast on the map. And this is your podcast. This is your museum. Thank you so much for listening. I've been your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, signing off as always with be safe